In the latest episode of Superior Athlete of the Week, presented by Superior Builders, Joy Watson joins Robert Wanick Jr. in studio. The BW Storm cross country and Breckenridge High School track runner tells us what she's looking forward to in the spring season. Superior Athlete of the Week is presented by SuperiorBuildersND.com, specializing in post-frame buildings. Please welcome Superior Athlete of the Week, Joy Watson. Let's just get right into it. What do you like so much about running?
Well, I like being able to come out of my comfort zone. I may be called crazy for running, but really what I found to enjoy about the running part is how it helps me with my mental stuff, and it helps me become a better runner and a better person at the exact same time. It has taught me don't quit on something that you're really passionate about. For example, for me it's just running, being able to get up in the morning just running just to make me feel better about my day.
And you enjoy running, so can you tell me, for somebody that doesn't get this, like me, what is a runner's high? What does that feel like for a runner?
Okay, to have a runner's high, I've been asked this question at the school. They're like, oh, how can you do this? I'm like, you've got to break past the mental barriers. You just got to keep pushing yourself, so you're not like, oh, I want to quit halfway through and you're like, why am I doing this? No, just breaking those mental barriers with positive self-talk. For example, I had a mental barrier that I was struggling with, and I'm like, just keep going, you've got this, you're almost there. So it's kind of like just being able to tell yourself that everything's going to be okay, you're going to survive, and you basically are doing what you need to do by breaking those mental barriers.
So you kind of get that high from knocking down that wall and kind of callousing your mind to the barriers that you had.
Yep.
That's very interesting. And this summer I saw you running all the time, so that kind of became a topic of conversation with Coach Lash and Coach Hare on the cross country team. Can you tell listeners how often you run in your free time?
In my free time, I'll basically just go out, every weekend I'll be out running, depending on the weather, but I basically run every day. I like to be consistent with my running, putting average miles, 4 to 5 miles a day, really just trying to boost it up just so that way I'm getting better and prepared for what's next.
And where are your favorite places to run locally?
That depends. I mean, I have a few various routes. So you go down North Dakota Avenue, go around to the Casey's Loop and do a little loop there, cemetery loops, and then kind of just doing a Gewalt loop, or really wherever it takes me. It kind of depends on where I'm at, and want to change it up a bit. So
last year was your first year running cross country, right?
Yep.
So senior, joins cross country, by all accounts a great teammate.
Yeah.
That's what your teammates had to say about you. Mm-hmm. What are your goals for the track season? What events do you run, and what are you trying to accomplish?
So for my for going into the track season with my track events, I'm trying to go mid-distance. Before I was a full-on sprinter, I was 100-meter dash, 200-meter dash, and a 400-meter dash. So going into this cross-country season, I was like, okay, why don't I try something new? So I got some tips and pointers from Coach Lash about what, he thought I could do. He for sure said that I could try to knock down that 400-meter dash to a minute 15 flat. The 800, can't remember the time for that one, but he said try to do the mile. So I'm kind of going mid-distance as far as coming out of my comfort zone just a tad. So I'm this year I'm for sure wanting to stick with the 400, because every time I would run it, I would end up getting a new personal record, which is a big accomplishment for me. I'm going to try the 800. I'm just going to see where it takes me. And then I'm going to end up switching up if I want to do the 2 mile or the 1 mile. It just kind of varies. So I can just switch it up. If I don't want to do one, I can do the 200 or the 100 basically. So I'm know what I'm doing. So it's kind of you have that comfort little thing right there.
I think PRs are one of the best parts about running, because you can kind of block everything out and then compete against yourself, which is really important in life. You should always be competing against the previous version of yourself and not comparing yourself. So having that PR only comparing you to you, I think, is really important. Quick question about your running. Do you listen to music when you run? And if so, what's on your playlist?
Yes. So during the cross country season, I made a cross country and a track playlist. So for example, I like listening to like all I do is win, and like listening to some of Coach Payne's podcast a little bit, so it's kind of like, okay, sweet, I can listen to this when I'm running. Kind of like upbeat music, so it's like I can do this, so that way I can just be over and be happy with what I accomplished
Yeah.
during the time.
DJ Khaled is obviously a go-to for motivation, and
Yeah.
if you guys haven't listened to Coach Payne, you can hop on that podcast and listen to some of that motivation too. Who's your favorite coach, or I guess somebody who's helped you the most? If you could just name just a singular person who's had an impact.
Well, I think that's the hard part because both coaches have done me a great favor in all behalf of the cross country and track seasons. Um, I would definitely have to give a shout out to Coach Lash for helping me like come out of my comfort zone, trying to like make me a better distance runner with all those like pep talks and all of that. So he should be really proud of himself as a coach for helping me become a better runner. So yeah.
Yeah, Larry Lash. It seems like a lot of the kids say that anything is possible with Larry. That's kind of his motto, that
Yeah.
you can do anything if you set your mind to. So the last question I wanted to ask you is, what other hobbies does Joy enjoy? I mean, I see you running every day. There's got to be a few minutes left in your day to do other things.
Well, on top of the running, I'm kind of like hang low or whatever, but in my spare time, I like going to the games or whatever and singing the national anthem because it's like, it gives out other teams like positive vibe. I did get a compliment for one of the games where I sang the national anthem for the Breckenridge Cowboys for the national anthem. It came from Holly even. Um, they said that I was a really I have a really good voice, and they enjoy me singing. So it's like whenever I get the chance, I just pop over there and sing the national anthem loud and strong. So it's like they kind of get the feeling for the game.
So there you have it, folks. That was Joy Watson, Breckenridge senior, two-sport runner, national anthem singer, putting in those miles, and now Superior Athlete of the Week. Thanks for joining us today, Joy.
Thank you, Robert. Thanks for having me.